Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of Crop Life and Crop Life Iron magazines. Here again, as has been the case all year, with Miss Lara Sowinski from Texas. Lara, welcome back to the program.
From Texas. I'm no longer from California anymore.
Well, you're living in Texas now, and based on your rather heavier garb on top there, it must be a little chilly. Probably, 71, 72 degrees.
Yeah, maybe 80. Yes. Well, thank you. It's good to be back.
Good. Well, hey, so for those of us, those viewers who may have been with us last week, I know I teased that myself and one of my coworkers, Eric Davis, we're going to be attending the CPDA conference. That's the Council of Producers and Distributors of Agrotechnology. And they had their meeting on adjuvants, inerts, and crop protection this week in Louisville, Kentucky. That took place on May 1st through the 3rd. And again, lots of good information came out of that meeting. About a little more than 300 people attended. Sessions were well attended. Speakers were very engaging, very interesting panels. But I have a couple of video clips to share from a few folks that our viewers may know. First up, of course, was Jay Vroom. For those of us who've been in the industry for any length of time, we remember Jay during his long stint as the head of Crop Life America. Jay retired and about 48 hours later began an advisory role to a lot of people in the ag industry and is continuing to do so. He's now the CPDA advisor as well. And here in this video clip, he was talking about trade, but at the beginning of the clip, he pointed out interesting fact that in his mind, a lot of the problems that we're having in agriculture all tie back to what's been going on in the European Union. So here's Jay's clip on that.
I think the European Union is responsible for enabling this expansion of power like China. And by that, I mean, because they've adopted what they first started calling the precautionary principle in the 80s, and then now have expanded it to be a risk-only kind of regulatory scheme. It has underlined the public confidence and risk assessment as the driver for looking at new technologies, especially in food and agriculture, but it goes way beyond us in food and agriculture. And it's torn down the public credibility and confidence in the risk assessment-based approvals of technology and assurance that those technologies can be safe and effective. With the mission that, risk assessment does get it wrong from time to time, but we come through those periods and get stronger with regard to our risk assessment. And instead, the European Union has been tearing away at the integrity of risk assessment using this hazard-only approach. And the Chinese have used that to our disadvantage, to Europe's disadvantage, and to their advantage, as had other regimes around the world. And frankly, it's the reason that we had this threat of losing GMO exports of corn to Mexico.
And that's what Jay Vroom had to say about the European Union and why we find ourselves in the state we are in when it comes to the folks in the general public trusting or not trusting science when it comes to products that we actually use in the marketplace. One other speaker, Lara, was actually the last speaker at the event, was Dr. Kevin Crosby, and he's with Adjuvants Unlimited. And I've got two clips from him. In this first clip, he was talking a little bit about the Malthusians. And of course, Malthus was a gentleman I learned about in school, basically said by the year 2000 that, the world was going to run out of resources, population would crash, there'd be billions dead around the globe. Everything was headed for ruin if we didn't change our ways. And of course, we're 23 years past the year 2000, but apparently there is a new group of people that believe Malthus was correct and think that things that we do in agriculture should go away, in particular fertilizer usage. So in this first clip, Dr. Crosby was talking about a proposal to get rid of rice because it's a little more carbon intensive than other crops. and also pointed out what happened recently in Sri Lanka when they actually did try to get rid of fertilizer and the end result of what happened with some of their major crops. So here's that clip.
And rice is the poster child in this area. Alternate production practices show promise, but there are calls for a ban on rice production. So, sudden changes in agronomic systems could be catastrophic. Sri Lanka, I've already mentioned, the following World Bank and Reed suggests the government mandated organic crop productions with a 1-year phase-in. Predictably, rice and tea production collapsed. There was a ban on pesticides. Oh, tea is the number one export crop. Oh, we can't export it because it's got fungus growing on it. Oh, geez, what was made? The resulting food riots threw the government out of office and restored fertilizer use. I believe the president was last seen heading for the airport with suitcases stuffed with cash of this. So I propose that these restrictions on end use are misplaced. Reduced yields will lead to less food, more hunger, adverse effect on world populations. I consider this immoral and evil. That is this big voice on us and from this approach. It's evil. The technology pessimists have been shown to be wrong for over 200 years. It is imperative that our industry provide positive, technology-driven, yield-preserving solutions before we get dumped in advance. One of our speakers the other day said, we can't say no to science. I'm not saying no to science. I'm saying no to stupid policy. So, and I believe science will help solve this problem.
So that's what Dr. Crosby had to say regarding fertilizer usage and an effort by these folks to get rid of rice growing. I know myself, Laura, I don't know about you, but if I go to Chipotle, I mean, just putting beans and meat at the bottom of a bowl doesn't cut it. I got to have a base of rice. Otherwise, it just doesn't have the right consistency, flavor, or doesn't really hang together very well. So I would really miss rice if they got rid of it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people around the globe that would agree with me.
Have you ever tried quinoa?
I have. Actually told by one of our persons in the industry that quinoa is from the same family as lamb's quarter, which is a weed. So, but yes, I have had quinoa. And I don't know if that's on the hit list or not. Dr. Crosby didn't mention that. But anyhow, the second clip I have of Dr. Crosby is, after he'd set up all these threats to our industry, fertilizer usage, different crops being done away with, if you will, he actually had a call to action, which I thought was very important to share with our viewers. So here you go.
I'm proposing a call to action to the CPDA and our affiliated industry-wide partners. I propose an industry-wide coalition. CPDA, ARA, Fertilizer Institute, corn growers, and other industry-related groups should commit by the end of the decade to achieve a 90% reduction in off-site movement of applied and fertilizer. This includes gaseous, nitrogen oxides, and water-soluble nitrate losses. I think this is something we could achieve. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take some money investment, but I think it's worthwhile. It's worth our time. This will entail large-scale adoption of existing technologies and development of new products. Economic costs and benefits need to be studied to ensure which system makes sense.
That was Dr. Crosby's call to action to the industry and all the trade groups that represented, and also anyone who's involved in agriculture, that by 2030, he would love to see a united front on, improving fertilizer usage and, basically reducing fertilizer usage. As he said before, regulators then step in and force the industry's hand. So,
well, I think we should rename this program to the Doom and Gloom Gang.
Yes, I guess you have some good news to share as well. Good in quotation marks. Yes. So please enlighten our viewers with happy news you have to share regarding transportation.
Well, rail performance or poor rail performance is the story that never ends. I think the latest update in the Lodestar this week is all about, the American Chemistry Council has asked the Surface Transportation Board to once again step in with regards to freight rail and service levels. The ACC, American Chemistry Council, has been surveying its members the last few years to really understand what the impact of poor rail performance has been. And we know last year there were several months where the threat of a rail strike was hanging over our heads. We've had rail derailments, this year.
Oh, yeah.
And so, looking at what their surveys are showing, and this is, again, a sizable industry group. The most recent survey, which looked at the last half of 2022, found 93% of ACC respondents experienced impacts on their business from supply chain and transportation disruption, with rail being the prominent problem there, with 36% of those respondents reporting that customers had canceled their orders due to cargo that would arrive late or not at all. At the same time that rail performance is declining, of course, freight rates are going up. Rail freight rates are going up, as are profits for the big Class 1 carriers. The other thing that was interesting, again, that precision scheduled railroading, that's been in the news the last couple years, overall an initiative to try and increase performance while simultaneously cutting out costs. A lot of criticism. In fact, PSR really is being blamed, in particular, for the derailments we've seen the last couple 3 months here. A good development on that front. The CEO of CSX, Joe Henricks, has come out and acknowledged that while PSR still is a good idea in terms of controlling costs and improving asset utilization, this is his quote: "In many ways, it didn't prioritize improving the employee experience and improving customer service." So at least he's come out and said, hey, we acknowledge that there is a problem with it. So hopefully there'll be something there. I think, the thing is, unlike trucking, perhaps you have, other options, other carriers, even, there are other modes of transportation sometimes, but rail, there's only, rail is rail. It's not nimble. It's not fast. You have a handful of carriers.
No.
Sometimes it feels like, while the STB can get involved and, there are some options for shippers, be they, ag shippers, coal, whatever, it's really tough. So I think it really has to come from within, the rail freight industry itself to, want to, improve their image via better performance and such. So we'll see what happens. That's a story that we continue to follow. Thus far, the good news is there are nothing in the way of strikes or self-imposed disruptions, if you will. But the ACC, certainly a sizable industry group. We'll see if they have any sway with the STB and what that might look like. So that's the latest from the trade and transportation desk here, at least on the rail side.
Well, and I know in the last few years too, I know there've been several meetings held, I think, on Capitol Hill regarding, I know the ag industry has been a little upset that the rail carriers in general, that they had to pick between ag products, grain, and or coal or some type of energy product, that they almost always kind of treat the agriculture like the redheaded stepchild, unfortunately. And it sounds like the situation is still not improved significantly. So fingers crossed, maybe something will get better. But again, like you say, at least there's threat of strikes has gone away.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, one other thing to bring up. I know a couple weeks ago I did an article for our online e-newsletter talking about alternative uh, energy sources for ag equipment. And I know I had focused in that article specifically on hydrogen power, because again, we have a drone out there, a couple of them now that are hydrogen powered. And I know our friends at AGCO Fent are working on hydrogen powered fuel cells for some of their equipment that's testing over in Europe. And we did find out, a little bit more about that when we did a poll. Hydrogen power and renewable fuel sources seem to be the things that most folks in the industry believe will become more prominent as we go forward, replacing some of the traditional fossil fuels that we've been using. But and I know in that poll we did, I asked about electric powered vehicles, and the percentage of folks that thought electric was going to be a thing was in the single digits. I mean, I was surprised how low the number was. But I did run across an article this week that our friends at John Deere are hopeful they will have a fully autonomous electric tractor in the marketplace by 2026. So again, maybe electric may not be the most prominent early on, but it sounds like there are some rather large equipment makers that are indeed experimenting with that power source, and will continue to, move that process forward as we go through the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's I think I remember not that many years ago when hydrogen fuel cells were making their debut in the forklift sector, and there was a lot of excitement around that. And I think it's still a very exciting technology. But this John Deere news is intriguing to me because, it's like anything, the capacity to recharge. I mean, just like cars, right? The electric vehicles, it's all really comes down to the battery technology, where it's at. So we'll see. That will be interesting news to keep an eye on as well, to see what they really come up with, and is it a viable replacement, if you will, for what's out there currently. Do we have to compromise on power or charging time or whatever, or whether it's really going to be able to, again, kind of be a viable replacement. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because in the car, of course, public sector, of course, electric cars are getting a lot of press recently, and I know I've heard a couple of radio stories talking about those, and the availability of charging stations around one's route is a big issue. And I guess those apps that you can get, download to your phone, which will help out with finding charging stations. But, in my mind, if you're looking at agricultural equipment, I mean, the charging station would be on site. This equipment's not going to be going, a couple of fields over from its main base per se. So the charging question, I think, would not be as big an issue, finding a charging station. And it's like you said, it's the power utilization, and can it maintain horsepower, reliably over the course of a workday. That, you're right, that'll be the key to this being developed. But like I said, our friends at John Deere are working on it. And I'm sure in a few years, if you attend the Consumer Electronics Show, maybe in 2027, they'll actually have a prototype there for you to check out. So.
Yeah, just, I was thinking too, as you were mentioning that, Sfiligoj has a new robot that they introduced that has, it's basically like an inverted U, and the top is just a solar panel. It's it's a solar powered robot for identifying insects in the field and pests and such. And so maybe the combination of something, solar, electric, I think maybe a hybrid solution seems like it would make sense. But yeah, there's a lot happening in that space. Yeah, good news item.
Yeah,
A
no, and
happy one.
you talking about solar powered, checking out the insects. My mind, of course, went to science fiction that I read as a kid, and I'm like, wouldn't it be neat if you not only could identify the insect, but if it's not a beneficial one, that it could use the solar power to zap the thing? But maybe that's just going too far. So,
Little laser comes out.
exactly, but maybe that's a little too far afield, and given all the worry about AI these days, maybe empowering the drones to kill the insects actively may not be the best move. We'll see. All right. Well, on that note, let's dive into your favorite section. Time for Fun with Numbers.
All right. Yay.
All
What you got?
right, Miss Laura. Well, this video will be airing on hopefully on Saturday if you're watching it, so you'll appreciate at least one of the choices when I give you the number and options here for Fun with Numbers this week. So this week, your number is as small a number as I ever remember having, counting negative numbers we've had on occasion. This number is 2. Just the number 2, not a percentage, not a dollar amount. 2. Okay?
Got it.
So, is 2 A, the number of years Brazil has surpassed the U.S. in corn exports? Is it B, the number of horses chemical producer Albaugh has in this weekend's Kentucky Derby? Is it C, the number of CPDA speakers that referenced Crop Life magazine? Or is it D, the number of shirts I ruined at the CPDA meeting eating too much marinara sauce dinners?
Oh, this is a good one. Shoot. It almost could be any of them, but I'm going with C, the number of times Crop Life was mentioned.
That is the one answer that is incorrect. I'm sorry. No, Dr. Conway, or Crosby, I'm sorry, Dr. Crosby did hold up a copy of Crop Life and referenced a couple of articles and ads in the book, but only one was that. No,
Big one.
the correct answer that I was actually looking for is A, the number of years Brazil passed the U.S. in corn exports. One of the CPDA speakers mentioned that happened for only the second time in history in 2022. They said the first time it happened was in 2012, so 10 years prior. That year there was severe drought in the U.S., which kind of cut into production, and then Brazil was able to surpass the U.S. in corn production and export. Last year it said it was again lower production in the U.S., but this time they were blaming lower barge grain movement for the fact that, and again, with the low water levels on the Mississippi, we talked a lot about transportation issues. So that apparently meant U.S. production fell 8.6%. And as a result, Brazil last year exported more corn than we did in the U.S. So, and if you're interested, Albaugh did tell me they have 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby. I don't remember both names. One of them was Angel of Empire. So if you're watching this video early on Kentucky Derby Day on May 6th, then you'll have a horse to root for that reason. Unless of course I haven't seen the odds, so maybe the odds aren't good. I don't know, but there, I was told Albaugh had 2 horses in the Derby and another one or so that might be an alternate. So we'll see.
Great. Well, let's put on our Derby hats and put some money down, shall we?
Derby hats, huh? Boy, you have a thing for hats. You want Crop Life hats. You want to know what baseball caps I'm wearing at that. Okay, but typically I don't bet the Derby just because I don't. The Kentucky Derby is the first horse race I tend to follow each year, so I don't know a thing about any of the horses until Derby Day, and that's after that. Then I can maybe in the Preakness or the Belmont, I'll put a $2 bet on a long shot just for yucks. But Yeah, I tend not to bet the Kentucky Derby because, like I said, I don't know the horses beforehand. So,
Yeah, if it's not named Seabiscuit, I'm not in. So,
boy, you were dating yourself, Tara. I would
No.
have gone to Secretariat, but all right, that's just me. Oh my! All right, well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this week's video and video clips. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of myself and everyone at Crop Life, see you again soon. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.